Sin memoria no habría historia, no habría cultura, subraya Elie Wiesel, con quien conversamos a raíz de su reciente visita a México. La siguiente es una breve semblanza del autor de novelas, de obras de teatro y ensayos que cuestionan a fondo la condición humana.
Elie Wiesel nació en Rumania en 1928. Fue deportado junto con su familia al campo de concentración de Auschwitz cuando todavía era un niño. Más tarde, fue trasladado a Buchenwald, donde murieron sus padres y su hermana menor. Tras haber decidido hacer un voto de silencio durante 10 años, Elie Wiesel escribió Noche, su primer libro. En él recoge la memoria de esos días. Después de haber escrito este testimonio, nunca más se enfocó de manera directa en el tema del Holocausto. En sus obras posteriores, tales como El accidente, El juicio de Dios y El mendigo de Jerusalén, Premio Medici, recurre a la ficción en una búsqueda implacable por encontrar respuestas para sobrellevar la pesada carga de haber sido sobreviviente y testigo. Premio Nobel de la Paz en 1986, Wiesel ha dedicado toda su vida a la lucha contra el olvido, la violencia y la indiferencia ante el dolor en donde quiera que se exprese, en Bosnia o en Palestina, en Camboya o en África. En su reciente visita a México, cuando le hablaban de los casos de Digna Ochoa y las mujeres asesinadas en Ciudad Juárez, solicitaba con gran interés y respeto más información. ¿Cómo era posible? ¿Qué se podía hacer? ¿Cómo vencer el silencio? Estas son preguntas que acechan permanentemente su conciencia, su trabajo de escritor.
Las preguntas de Elie Wiesel son universales. Seguramente todos las hemos formulado de una u otra manera. ¿Por qué existe el mal? ¿Dónde está Dios? ¿Qué opciones nos quedan? ¿Cómo vencer el olvido? Este es uno de los grandes problemas que han confrontado escritores como Primo Levi, Jorge Semprún y Paul Celan, testigos del Holocausto, uno de los momentos más atroces que ha vivido el ser humano. En una entrevista que preparamos conjuntamente Guadalupe Alonso y yo, Elie Wiesel nos habló de los límites del lenguaje para enfrentar este abismo.
Elie Wiesel, thank you very much for this interview for Channel 22. Kafka spoke of his wish to see his tales turned into prayers. The Israeli poet Yehuda Mihai said that poems were like prayers that help us to survive. What are words for you?
Memories. Memories of times that transcend words. Words for me are sometimes as important as the language that separates one word from the other. What I tried to do really is to show that certain things cannot be communicated, that there are certain experiences that remain beyond language. It doesn't mean that we should stop using language. I try, many of us have, but at the same time the feeling that I always have, I carry it with me when I write and after I write, is that it's not what I wanted to say, it's not what had to be said. So it's still there. It doesn't mean we should stop. We must continue. I still believe that we must say what we have to say. The witness must bear witness. And the child of the witness must bear witness because he is a child of the witness. And he who listens to a witness becomes a witness. I believe in all that. At the same time, I believe that the real truth with a capital T, if one may use that word, will never be communicated. No one who wasn't there will ever know what it meant being there. And that is almost a sad, melancholy statement of affairs, because that means that the enemy has won in a way. And I don't even know how to deal with that. It's maybe my personal defeat, but this is the truth. That was stronger. And unfortunately, evil had more power than all of us. One stupid sergeant in the SS with a machine gun had more power than 1,000 poets and philosophers and chroniclers and artists put together.
¿Cómo escribir sin deshonrar la memoria de los muertos? ¿Cómo se puede ser testigo de las preguntas que se hicieron quienes serían asesinados en Auschwitz?
Night was really the only book I wrote about Auschwitz. I wrote all the others in order not to write about Auschwitz. because this is, well, Hochsemprun, whom you know, and I discussed a lot. I cannot write about Auschwitz or Buchenwald. I cannot. I've only written Night. And I have really this struggle to this day. I wrote another play called, in French, Le Procès de Shamgorod, and in English, A Trial of God. And I describe a true story in Auschwitz. I was working with a man whose face I never knew really, because we were carrying stones. I only saw his neck. And he was a Rosh Yeshiva, he was a teacher, head of an academic Talmudic school in Poland. And I still remember, because I studied Talmud all my life. So we studied Talmud together, by heart, there. And one night, he called me, he said, "You are young, youngest here in this barrack. I hope you'll survive, and therefore I need you as a witness." And he and two of his other learned men established a court to bring God to justice. And I was there as the witness. And there was a court, a real trial. Witnesses for and against, arguments for and against, memories for and against. And at the end, the verdict was guilty. But afterwards, he said, "And now let's go and pray."
Wow.
For years, I didn't know what to do with that. I wrote a novel, I threw it away. You don't write a novel on that. It's too substantive.
El veredicto, Dios es culpable, e inmediatamente después los prisioneros se ponen a rezar. Más adelante, Elie Wiesel ahonda las paradojas de su relación con Dios.
Where is God? God's present in history. So if God is present in history, how is it possible that evil has power?
Puesta en escena que explora el mundo interior de dos guionistas de televisión cuya desastrosa vida sale a la luz una noche durante una reunión de trabajo. El Centro Nacional de las Artes se complace en invitar al público a la cuarta edición del Encuentro Internacional de Guitarra con la participación de guitarristas de España, Estados Unidos, Puerto Rico y México en un abanico que incluirá música de cámara, jazz, conciertos didácticos y clases magistrales. Hasta el 23 de marzo. Comedia realista que retrata la Rusia posrevolucionaria de los años 20, con las actuaciones de la compañía de la Escuela Nacional de Arte Teatral. Teatro Salvador Novo, del Centro Nacional de las Artes. Jueves y viernes, 20-30 horas, sábado 19 horas y domingo 18 horas. Entrada libre. Conjunto de ensayos que dan cuenta de los encuentros afectivos de Gonzalo Celorio con la literatura y la historia cubanas, la herencia barroca en el mundo hispanohablante, sus autores preferidos en verso y en prosa, así como una reflexión en torno a maestros como Luis Ríos, Edmundo O'Gorman y Bonifaz Nuño, entre otros. Daniel Cosío Villegas, nacionalista sagaz y prudente, constructor de instituciones, motor cultural y educativo, crítico implacable y enemigo del uso del poder como cotos privados. Con largas pinceladas históricas, Enrique Krause ha logrado con esta biografía recuperar a una figura señera de la intelectualidad mexicana. Relato periodístico de Javier Cercas que reconstruye la historia del falangista Rafael Sánchez Mazas, quien el 30 de enero de 1939 logra escapar de un fusilamiento colectivo gracias a un soldado que de manera inesperada le perdona la vida.
The moment I will be able to say Auschwitz without trembling, I will stop speaking altogether.
Seguimos con Luz Verde en este número que se enfoca en las preguntas de Elie Wiesel, Premio Nobel de la Paz, escritor y testigo del Holocausto. Para quienes desean conocer su obra literaria, tenemos 5 libros para las primeras personas que se comuniquen al correo electrónico que aparece en su pantalla. Ante la barbarie, la lucha contra el olvido ha dominado la vida de Elie Wiesel. De ello nos habla a continuación.
There are two mysteries in the human life, human condition, is memory and hope. And we don't know where they come from. You know, in ancient Greece, the word was Elitia. In ancient Greece, they called it Elitia, which means things that cannot be forgotten. And Elitia means truth. Truth is things that cannot be forgotten. And we should say there are things that must not be forgotten. And so we, Jews anyway, we almost established a kind of culture of memory from the very beginning. The most frequent word in the Bible is Zachor, remember, 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 remember. They even say the expression, remember not to forget, which means don't forget to remember. What would we do without it, really? What would culture be without memory? What would art be without memory? What would civilization be without memory? What would history be without memory? I was obsessed, of course, with memory, and therefore with the danger to memory. So I wrote a novel about Alzheimer, the most despairing novel I've ever written, and therefore I didn't publish it for many years. I compared Alzheimer to a book. You tear a page every day, another page, another page, and then there are no more pages left, only the cover. That is the Alzheimer patient. That is the curse, the ultimate curse.
La gran pregunta de Elie Wiesel está relacionada con el silencio de Dios y con la experiencia de Dios, dos vivencias que paradójicamente no puede negar. A continuación, Elie Wiesel nos revela una parte de esta historia que nunca había contado. Le preguntamos sobre un comentario que hizo hace 15 años acerca de un encuentro muy personal con Dios que daba la sensación de ser un diálogo verdadero, no solamente una metáfora.
I rebelled against God, naturally. God was too important in my life and still is. So I had to say certain words. But we must be honest. Auschwitz was not something that came down from heaven. Human beings did that. They had the idea, they made a plan, they built, and they killed. So to say, God, where are you, really? I turn to God only when I ask all the questions that I have for other human beings. At the end of the questions, I say, okay, now, but God, come on, hey, wait. You are also part of it. Where were you? And it's true that my dialogues with God are not really God through me, but He speaks to me through other voices. Which means when I hear somebody else speak, I have the feeling it's God speaking. Mysticism always appealed to me and still does. Not only because of its intrinsic truth, which it tries to unveil, but because of its aesthetic attitude. It's beautiful. There is beauty in mysticism. As much as truth, but there is beauty. So, to this day, I believe mysticism is one way that leads to greater depth and to greater illumination. And the danger is when you confuse beauty with truth. If it's only beautiful, then something is wrong. The Greek philosophers had wanted knowledge, but they also emphasized beauty too much. It was the quest for the truth, the quest for beauty. They spoke about beauty. Beauty is in itself is not, when the woman is beautiful, it's good. I accept it, it's enough. I don't need more. But when the soul is beautiful, it adds something to that beauty. So mysticism is the beauty of the soul, much more than of the mind. And it's true, as a child, not as a child, let's say, as a young teenager, I was taken by it, and the young teenager is still in me, waiting for more discoveries.
Hemos recorrido el pensamiento de Elie Wiesel a través de las preguntas que formula. El espíritu adolescente de este testigo de nuestra historia aún mantiene vigente una pregunta que negamos cuando nos alcanza el cinismo o la indiferencia. La pregunta, ¿qué se puede hacer?
In my adult life anyway, in human rights activities, wherever there was something. Cambodia, I went to Cambodia to bring medication and so forth, and then in Bosnia I'm involved in, I think, whenever I feel something is happening in the world, I go there, I want to be a witness. Unfortunately, we live in a world where death has become the norm, not the exception. And people are numb. You see on the screen killing and killing and killing, and people don't even feel outrage. Let me give you, almost at the end of our good conversation, what haunts me is a picture and a figure. While we talk, you know that every moment a child dies somewhere in the world of disease, of hunger, of violence, every moment. Which means while your program is taking place, a 30-minute program, 30 children have died. And this is our fault. And here I believe that if we could use the right words, invoking the authority of memory, we could bring more sensitivity to people who have power or the means to save those children. And I hope that you have that power.
Elie Wiesel, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Recogemos las palabras de Elie Wiesel con la autoridad de la memoria que conllevan. Por lo que toca a Canal 22, nos pusimos en contacto con UNICEF, el Fondo de las Naciones Unidas para la Infancia, una institución que protege a la niñez contra el hambre, la enfermedad y la violencia. Si usted desea contribuir con un donativo en apoyo a la niñez desfavorecida en México, puede hacerlo a la siguiente cuenta que aparece en su pantalla. El cheque puede ser por la cantidad que usted desee y debe ir a nombre de UNICEF. Para mayores informes, favor de comunicarse al teléfono 5202-0194, repito, 5202-0194, en días y horas hábiles. Pasamos ahora a nuestra sección de literatura. Mauricio Molina nos habla del libro de los libros, Historias de imágenes, ilustrado por Quint Bluschofts.
El libro de los libros, Historias sobre imágenes, del ilustrador alemán Quint Buchholz, es una verdadera cartografía de la literatura europea contemporánea.